Okay, good morning students and welcome back to the next class. So, 1 second, you close your eyes and pray. Last class we were discussing about asexual reproduction and we discussed some of the important types of asexual reproduction as binary fission in amoeba, then multiple fission in plasmodium and fragmentation as in Spirogyra and regeneration, example was planaria, and also budding as in Hydra. Today we are going to discuss vegetative propagation. You can see vegetative propagation means the plants can be divided into two important parts, that are vegetative parts and reproductive parts. So flower is the reproductive part of the flower, and other part of the plant like stem, leaves and roots, these are vegetative part. So new plants can develop from vegetative part of the plant, for example from the stem, root and leaf, and this type of reproduction is called vegetative propagation. So reproduction using stem, root and leaves of the plant, that is actually what is called vegetative propagation. And we actually use this method for producing new plants by grafting, layering. Grafting, you might have seen plants that especially mangoes and other grafted mangoes are available. So, and we are actually using layering, another technique, and also we are using this kind of techniques for producing new plants. And some plants, always we are using vegetative propagation methods, agricultural plants like sugarcane, rose, grapes. These are some plants which are always propagated vegetatively. In some plants, they bear, some of them they don't produce seeds. For example, you can see rose. It doesn't produce any seed, but it is propagated vegetatively. Rose plant, we take a stem and a new plant is grown like that. And like that, sugarcane, grapes, all these are vegetatively propagated because they don't produce seed. And there are so many advantages of their vegetative propagation. So note down, these are some of the important advantages. They bear fruit and seed early. For example, if you plant a tapioca using the stem and another one by using seed. The seed grown one, it will take very long time for it to grow. But stem grown, it will be mature, ready for harvest very soon. So that is one advantage. They produce or they become mature earlier than using seed. And some of them never produce seed. So this is the only technique. For example, jasmine, mulla, rose. These are some of the examples. They never produce seed. Jasmine, for example, mulla, if you want to produce a new one, you have to use the vegetative propagation method using stem. And you can see another advantage. So one advantage you can see, they fruit and produce fruits and seed earlier. Second advantage is that some of them they never produce seeds, so this is only method. And the third advantage is they will be genetically similar, meaning they will be identical. And so if you take the vegetative part, the young ones will be very excitedly similar to the plant from which you got the vegetative part. So meaning it will be genetically identical. The young ones that you produce will be very similar to the parent plant. And some plants even they can be reproduced through their leaves. For example, bryophyllum, very common. The nodes of the bryophyllum is having notches. Leaves, if you examine the leaves of a bryophyllum, they have leaf. These are the notches. Here from each notches you can see leaf buds are there. From that one you can see new plant can produce. And that is again another example of vegetative propagation taking place in plants. Another good example, well, we are actually using this technique in tissue culture. In tissue culture, actually what we are doing is this one. The stem, the root of a plant, the root tip of a plant is taken, the tissue culture. So, tissue culture, banana, so many other plants are commercially important plants are produced. And what is done is, you can see the roots, the root tips are taken. This is the root, the tip of the root is cut, and it is cut into so many pieces, and it is kept in a solution. And first we are putting it in a artificial medium, and this solution will contain artificial medium, and in this artificial medium you are putting the small piece of roots, and this is an artificial medium which contains various nutrients, and then you can see it will start to grow, it will start to multiply, and it will form a similar group of cell. This group of cell is called callus. Then this callus, again it is transferred to another container which contain water and various hormones, another solution which contain hormones, and this callus is transferred. And you can see after some time it will grow into a small plant. It will start growing into a small plant. And this is how tissue culture is done. So, tissue culture, by using tissue culture, we are producing so many agriculturally important plants are made by using tissue culture. So, that is about tissue culture. One more thing. Spore formation, again another sexual method of reproduction, as it is in Rhizopus. You know what is Rhizopus? Rhizopus is called, another name is bread mold. They are living on bread, so it is called bread mold. So this, if you keep wet bread for few days, it will get it will be attacked by fungus. And how this will happen? You can see if wet bread is kept somewhere. You can see the spores from other Rhizopus, bread mold, it will come and start growing it. And you can see it will produce thin thread-like structures inside the bread, and that is called hypha. Hyphae is plural. And some of the hyphae, it will grow outside the substratum where they are growing. And at the tip of this, you can see a ball-like structure is produced, and it is called sporangium. So many sporangium will be produced. You can see so many will be there. Then you can see the bread appears little bit greenish in color. And inside this sporangium, you can see small dust-like spores will be developed. And once this sporangium break, you can see the spores will be released. So this is a sexual method of reproduction. The spores produced in the sporangium, it is dispersed, and easily it can be spread to other places by wind. It is spread to other places. If it falls on another suitable place, wet place, it will multiply there. So this is also another type of asexual reproduction found in different organisms. So these are the different type of asexual reproduction among both the plants and animals. Now we are going to discuss sexual reproduction in organisms. So both the plants and animals, they are reproduced sexually also. Now we are going to discuss sexual reproduction. So actually in the sexual reproduction, we are going to see two cells are going to get fused, two gametes are going to get fused. In a sexual reproduction, we already studied that before the reproduction, DNA replication takes place. The cell contains nucleus contains chromosome which is made up of DNA. So there is replication of DNA, the doubling of DNA takes place. And so that is the most important thing that is happening in a sexual reproduction. And because of the slight changes in the DNA replication, there will be variations, differences in the offspring. And in sexual reproduction, actually, you can see the DNA from two organisms are going to be combined. For example, the egg from one organism or a female gamete from one organism, it is going to fuse with the male gamete or sperm as in human being. So you can see that two cells are going to be combined. And here you can see in a sexual reproduction, the DNA from two individuals are going to combine. So DNA controls the characteristic of the organism. So DNA from two individuals are going to combine in one organism. These two cells, it will join to form a zygote. So the DNA from two individuals, that is a male and female, going to combine and become a zygote. But here, before the formation of the gamete, if the same amount of DNA is transferred to the zygote, meaning there will be doubling of DNA. So if it continues, there will be the DNA will be doubled in each generation. So it will become double. So because DNA from two individuals. But before the formation of gametes, there will be a reduction or a reduction division, and this reduction division is called meiosis. For example, human being, there are 46 chromosomes in our body, but the gametes, that is the sperm and egg, will contain only 23 chromosomes each. So meaning the egg will contain 23, sperm also will contain 23. So the zygote that is going to become a new individual child, it will get 46. So there is a special type of division that takes place before the gamete formation, and that special type of division is called meiosis or reduction division. So the gametes will get only half the amount of DNA. Now we can see how sexual reproduction takes place in plants. That is what we are going to see. If you examine a plant, many plants, you can see they have the male and female structures. If you examine one flower, sometimes you can see the same flower will have both male and female structures. If the parts of the flower you studied, you can see the flowers are having 4 different parts. These are the 4 different parts of a flower. And the first 2 parts, then you can see so if you examine a flower, 4 different parts are there. The outermost part is called sepal, then the colored part is called petal, and then you can see this is the male part of the flower, it is called stamen. Then you can see this center, you can see the female part is called carpel. Carpel also is called pistil, that another way it is known as pistil. So these are the main most important parts of a flower. If you examine the structures, you can see in the diagram, one diagram is given inside the textbook, and you can see these are the main parts. If you examine stamen, the stamen is having 2 important parts. There is a filament, this is called a filament, and this is called anther. So a stamen is having 2 parts, a filament and a anther. The inside the anther, you can see pollen grains are produced, and this is the male reproductive part, and it is the male gamete of it is the male reproductive part of the flower, and when the pollen grains release, and you can see it will go to the female reproductive part. The female part is called carpel. The carpel is made up of three parts, carpel of pistil. You can see that sticky and this part is called stigma, and this part, slender part, is called filament. It is called style, not filament, style, and this is called ovary. So a carpel is having three different parts, that is a stigma, style, and ovary. Inside the ovary, you can see there is another structure, one or more. You can see this is called, this structure is called ovule. This is called ovule. So inside the ovule, you can see the female part is there. So the female part is there, and actually that is the female gamete or the ovum or egg is there. So how fertilization takes place in plant? So you can see flower once again, sepal, petal. Sepal function is to protect the flower when it is in bud condition. Petals, usually they are colored, and the function is to attract the insects or transfer the pollen grain, and that is a function. Stamen, which is made up of filament, F-I-L-A-M-E-N-T, filament and anther. And the anther actually is producing the pollen grains. Then you can see carpel. Carpel is made up of three parts, stigma, style, and ovary. Inside the ovary, ovule is there, which contain the female gamete. Now, how fertilization takes place? You can see, I am drawing a carpel or a pistil. This is a carpel, ovary, style, stigma. Inside the ovary, ovule is there. So this is the ovule, and this is the ovule. Inside the ovule, you can see egg is there. Egg is there. Other cells are also there. Actually, it is having 7 nuclei are there. One most important part. This is the egg. Other cells you need not remember the name. So these are the important part. Now from the anther, pollen grains will get deposited on the stigma, and this is what is called the transfer of pollen grain from the anther to the stigma is called pollination. This happens by either wind or insect or water. The pollination can take place. Pollination within the same flower is called self-pollination. So meaning some flower like hibiscus. Hibiscus means chambarati. You can see pollen grain from it is having both stamen and pistil. So pollen grain from the same plant can be transferred. It is called self-pollination. But in some plants you can see either stamens or pistil or either stamens or carpel. Only one will be present. There are so many plants like you can see very common with rambutan. So many other plants are there. So meaning self-pollination is not possible there. The pollination is called from one flower to the another flower of the same plant or different plant. It is called cross-pollination. So after the pollination, the pollen grain start to grow. Inside one nucleus is there, and you can see the pollen grain start to grow, and it will produce a tube called pollen tube. Pollen tube, it will grow through the style, and it is growing through the style, coming down, and inside that you can see the male gamete will be there. Egg is here. So finally it will enter inside the ovule, and the male gamete here. This is a male gamete. It will enter inside, and this will go and fuse with the egg here, and fertilization takes place. That means male gamete fuse with the female gamete or egg, female gamete or egg, same, female gamete, another name is female gamete, female sex cell. So you can see fertilization takes place. After fertilization, what will happen? Usually the flower, if it is a flower, sepal, that is the outer green, that it will fall down, dry and fall down. Sepal and petals also will dry and fall down. And the remaining part, stamens all fall down, dry and fall down. And usually you can see style and stigma also, it will also dry and fall down. What is remaining is only this much. Ovary will be there, and inside that ovule will be there. The ovary will become the fruit. It is going to become the fruit, and the ovule inside it will become the seed. And inside the seed, the zygote is there. Zygote is the fertilized egg. After the zygote is there, and the ovule become the seed. Inside the zygote, what will happen to the zygote? The ovule is becoming the seed. Inside the seed, you can see a small plant is there, and this small plant inside, you can see if you open seeds, you can see it inside. Even green gram, you can see that small plant is it will come out. If you examine the small plant, it will have three important structures, and two important structures are these two big structures are there. They are called cotyledons. This is the part which contains food, and a small plant which is having the tip, the upper part which is going to become the shoot system, stem and leaves, etc. It is called the plumule, and the lower part which is going to become the root system, it is called radicle. So this is inside the seed, you can see this, and this is called what is called embryo that is present in the seed. So we can say stop here. So once again, pollination. After pollination, the pollen grain grow and it will produce pollen tube. It will grow through the style and get inside the ovary. Inside the ovary, female gamete is there. Inside the pollen tube, male gamete is there. So the male gamete and female gamete fuse inside the ovule. This is the ovule. The ovule, after fertilization, the ovule becomes the seed, and the ovary as a whole it will become the fruit. And you can see the zygote. What will happen to the zygote? Zygote will become a small plant, and it is called the embryo, which is having two cotyledon which store food, and a plumule and radicle which is going to become the root system and shoot system. So I will stop here. Wish you all the best.